For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences and earthquakes in various places. So, well, we've actually seen that all happening. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of upheaval going on in our world today, and we've got the royal visit that's on at the moment, and we've got Adelaide's second earthquake in 18 months, which is up in the hills there, and so we're not so far away with what's happening. And then we've got this carbon tax thing that's been going on, and we've got skeptics, and we've got Julia Gillard and her lot who are pushing it. Roy Monckton came out to Australia and spoke on this whole thing. You can check that up on yourself, but he maintains this, a very, very well connected person. The climate nonsense is an international nonsense. There are politicians, scientists, media people, big business and bankers making a lot of money out of peddling this notion, which is false, that adding a relatively small amount of carbon dioxide to a very large atmosphere is somehow going to make a measurable difference to global temperature. It won't, he says, but they are about to impose a communist world government on the world. So there is that working behind the scenes. But the mechanism for establishing this one world Marxist government has only recently been revealed, and that was the Copenhagen Treaty on Climate Change, which fell on its face, and Mr. Rudd ended up with mud all over his face and ended up getting kicked out. But the whole aim behind the climate change is to raise money for a one world government. So the carbon tax has been pushed through. Those of you that have been listening to Barry Smith, and I believe you have, Barry maintained that Australia and New Zealand have been chosen to be like test cases. So they keep pushing things through here, and then later on they become in a broader field. But they have what is called carbon trading in Europe, and hasn't made much difference to carbon at all, but it's generated a heck of a lot of money for a lot of people. And so there are things that are happening on our world today, and there's always reasons behind it. And what a country calls its vital economic interests are not the things which enable its citizens to live, but the things which enable it to make war. Petrol is much more likely than wheat to be the cause of international conflict. So when we see things happening all over the world, you may depend there's a possibility that oil is involved, particularly over there in the Middle East. For instance, we've got the tremendous amount of energy over on the other side there, the far side over there. You see China, and annual consumption for Latin America and these countries going to drop. But the red side there speaks of, up to 2015 or 2020, and you'll notice the great rise in the Middle East and also in China, and that relates to the annual consumption to increase of fuel, which is causing quite a big unbalance in the world. Now, there's something else that's very, very interesting, and I've been watching it with great interest, and I came across it a while back, and that is the New World Order. There was a fellow called Albert Pike, and in December 29th, 1890, he lived and died in April the 12th, 1891. He was an attorney, Confederate officer, writer, and Freemason. Pike is the only Confederate military officer or figure to be honoured with an outdoor statue in Washington, D.C. That's in the Judiciary Square, mostly due to his Masonic connection with the President Andrew Johnson. Now, this is interesting. On January the 22nd, 1870, now this is 44 years before there was a World War, He received a demonic vision, a plan which would establish the New World Order. The plan was secret and revealed in a book, Secrets of the Illuminati by Doc Marquis. The plan saw the need for 3 world wars. Now this was 44 years before World War I. The First and Second World War has been fulfilled much as predicted. Quite amazing, quite amazing. And it's the World War III which interests us. The Third World War was to be between Judaism and Islam. Again, it's incredible, because in 1870, when he got this thing, this vision or dream or plan from demonic things, Israel did not exist as a nation then. So watch events in Israel. The Bible predicts Israel to be involved with war with the Arabs, and also New World Order people are moving to commence a war between Israel and her Arab neighbours and spread to the entire world. The plan is to annihilate both Jew and Arab and of course Christians, because they believe in the existence of one God too strongly to accept the satanic Antichrist. So Islam will not bow to a satanic world system. Okay? Christians won't bow. So the best way to deal with them is to get them both to fight each other. Now when these things start to happen, you start to see it. Now if you have a look at there, you'll see that is a map of what is called the Arab Spring. Now Tunisia was the first one to go, 10 million people. And then Egypt kicked out their Prime Minister. And now, a couple of days ago, Libya, they shot Gaddafi, and so he's gone. Okay. And so then there's problems over here in Syria, and over here in Yemen as well. Now you'll notice that all of those places have got oil. So there's always reasons behind, there's always a reason for the season, but there is a stirring up and a changing of the whole Middle East structure. And you ask the question, what is actually happening out there? Tunisian presidents deposed after 23 years. Murabac, Libya's Gaddafi, was killed a couple of days ago. Yemen's, president, 33 years. And Assad has been ruling for 11 years in Syria, but with his father, they've been in charge for 40 years. And they've all ruled by bribes and corruption and amassed great wealth, where their people are many people in poverty. Plus the fact they have such a tremendously high birth rate over there, that there's growing up this huge group of young people, and in the past they've been able to rule by secrecy and by fear and oppression, but because of Facebook and because of mobile phones now, people can communicate, on the internet, and it's cut off a lot of the power of these people, and people are communicating, and it's almost like a Facebook revolution that's happened over there now. It's changing the ball game, and these people are being toppled. But then the question is, okay, they've been thrown out, but what's going to replace them? The Arab Spring falters. The military's in control in Egypt. There's a high price to be paid for dismantling decades of autocratic rule. Islamic jihadists have much to gain from the Arab Revolution. The Muslim Brotherhood, for instance, is waiting in the wings, weakening ties with Israel and Egypt. And Egypt's looking to Turkey for political leadership. And all of these nations are mentioned in Scripture, you see. And people have been asking questions like, well, Turkey has been mentioned in Scripture that they're going to be part of an end-time confederation of nations that are going to invade Israel. And yet Turkey, have been extremely supportive of Israel and have had relationships with them and so on. And Turkey has been moving towards the common market, the EU and all of those things, and Bible students have been saying, hey, what's going on? Because it doesn't add up. And then all of a sudden there's been this big change now at sweeping, and now Turkey is changing quite a bit now. So the Middle East is a cauldron of uncertainty and instability, And Bible prophecy says that it will intensify before Jesus comes. Egyptian protesters break into Israeli embassy. And in Egypt, not so a while ago, they raided a Coptic church and they killed quite a few Christians, and these are the sort of things that are happening now. It's been a rough time for September for Israel, for instance. Its ambassador was whisked out of the country on Friday, and the president of Turkey, Turkey's prime minister, is threatening wider sanctions after Israel refused to apologise. So Turkish PM totally suspends defence trade links with Israel. So there's a total change that's going on. And watch Israel, because it's the centre of the world as far as the Bible is concerned. It's also the centre of the world as far as God is concerned. And particularly Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a key place that we must keep our eyes on. Those of you that followed what happened was, Israel has got an embargo on boats, ships coming into the country. All right, they won't allow boats to come into Gaza, which is the Palestinian part. But so they'll say, yeah, you can come in, all right, but come into an Israeli port, and we will go through and make sure you haven't got bombs, guns, and everything else in the blooming thing. You know, if you've got good stuff, food and stuff, well, we'll make sure it gets there. So there's no problem with stuff getting through to the Palestinians. It's just that they didn't want them to go straight in, and that's what this was all about. So the boats came in from Turkey to go straight to Gaza to unload their stuff, you know, and Israel says, no way, no, well, you're not going to do that, okay? And that's what caused the trouble, and there was all sorts of stuff. So as a result of that, the Turkish Prime Minister. Now, one of the key things about the invasion, which in Ezekiel 38 and 39, we call it the Gog-Magog invasion. And it's a group of nations that will come down and invade Israel. And one of the things it says that Israel will be dwelling in unwalled villages. And unwalled. So Jerusalem and Israel will be totally at peace and so on. But that's the dead opposite to what it is now. For instance, that's a wall that they've built. Israel built this wall, 250 kilometres of it, you know, a huge wall to protect themselves from the Palestinians firing all their rockets and stuff into it, you know. War to protect Israel from rocket attacks from the enemy. Israel is not at peace, so much needs to happen before Ezekiel 38 can come to pass. If conflict is building up today, if the Arab Spring becomes Islamic winter, and Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Egypt invade Israel, and God moves, well then Israel may have peace. And so it's interesting, all these things leading up, just right now in our particular nation, we've got our own Prime Minister who's pushing a one world agenda as much as she can, and we've got all these problems out here. Now, so we'll turn now to the scripture that Jesus spoke about. Now, the Palestinian people have been trying to get their own country in Israel. I mean, Jordan has got thousands and thousands and thousands of acres, you know, just over the road. Now, and it was set aside for the Arabs and all that, for goodness sake. But no, they just want to get themselves, and so they want to have Jerusalem as part of their capital, and they may get it.